Let's create our very first component. In this video, we are going to recreate a very simple button component in WeWeb. Let's dive in. So to create our button component, we're going to start from the native button that we can find in the basics panel, and we're going to drop that. The reason that I'm using that is because on that button, you have a bunch of properties that are specific to a button. For instance, you can change its type, you can add icons, and you also have specific triggers. So having all of these built inside of our component will make our job easier. So there are several ways to create a component. When you select your component, you can hit this component icon here, or you can hit new component at the top. When you do that, you have this small modal that allows you to modify the properties of your component. You can choose a name, a folder, a description, and a preview image. We're just going to add a name and the rest is optional. I'm going to hit create, and now you will notice that the canvas is becoming gray. That means that we are in edit mode of our components. So on my components, I can go ahead and change a few properties. For instance, I want the color to be blue, and I'm going to change the border radius from 6 to something like 4. And if I leave the edit mode by clicking outside, we can see now that my component has a green border, and you can also see that green inside of the layout panel, and that means that we have an instance. I can duplicate my instance, and if I want to add it on the page, I can also go to the add panel. We have an asset tab, and inside you have all of the components that are linked to your project. And in our case, we want to use the button that we just created. So if I drop it, that's. So now if I want to make any modification to my button, I can go ahead and select any instance on my page and change the color. For instance, I want my button to actually be red. If I do this inside of an instance, those modifications will only be applied to that specific instance. But if I want those modifications to be replicated in all of my instances, I need to go back inside of my component, inside of the edit mode of my component to make those changes. So I can do that by double clicking on my elements or by hitting edit at the top right corner. We are back in the edit mode, and if I go ahead and change the background color, something like a green, then we can see that those modifications are indeed replicated for each of my instances. The second button here, the red button, is still red because we have an override to the inside of the instance. But if I go and reset this style, we can see that it reverts to the default state, that is the green color. So congrats, we built our first reusable component that allows us to have multiple instances of the same element. Next, we'll add props to our component so that we can make variation depending on the context. For instance, on our button, we can create a prop to make the text label different depending on the context. So see you on the next one.